Okay, first of all, I know what you're all going to say. You said that you weren't going to make another MBTI video. Yes, I know I say that. But, unfortunately, my precious characters have been terribly mistyped. So I'm going to correct that by typing them properly. Type Burnhouse Lane instead of the Cat Lady of Downfall or Lorelei because it's the game that I recently replayed, so it's the one that I have more fresh in my mind. If this has enough views and likes and comments and you are interested in knowing the proper typing of the characters of the Harvester games, please let me know. But keep in mind that I have to replay the games to give you a proper type and not just guessing out of nowhere. Also, I hate this fucking stereotype that INFPs are the ones who suffer the most depression. Guess what? Do you even know what depression means? It means lack of serotonin, and this can manifest in 3 different ways. Lack of sleep, feeling sad or down for not any particular reason, and lastly, a drastic change in appetite. So yeah, typology has nothing to do with being depressed. Please do yourself your own research and avoid making these stupid types based on memes or stereotypes that you find on the internet with questionable resources. So I'm going to start typing it. I'm going to read the cognitive functions, but if you need an explanation, I made a whole another video with actual resources from the books and Jung himself, and not some shitty Instagram post or Tumblr post, so you get the full idea and good information. FI, introverted feeling. TI, introverted thinking. NI, introverted intuition. SI, introverted sensation. FE, extroverted feeling. TE, extroverted thinking. NE, extroverted intuition. SE, extroverted sensation. We first start with Angie or Angeline Weather. First, you receive a call from a friend that offers you a good job that pays well, and Angie instantly rejects it. And then the first thing you do is a tutorial when you basically try to unleash yourself. And then she doesn't succeed because the base wasn't hard enough, so she falls and she calls her friend and accepts the job. She meets the daughter of the old man that she's going to be taking care of, and she explains him that he needs to be fed, she needs to water the plants, etc. So what we can see about Angie, and obviously this whole video is going to contain spoilers, she is a character that takes a lot of action but doesn't think correctly on the future. She knows that she only has 6 months to live, but she takes immediate action like, I'm going to hang myself. She doesn't succeed and said, okay, I'm going to take this job. This is a very impulsive character if you think of it. To me, she's an SE dominant because she has problem envisioning her future, and even in a point in the game, she mentions to James that she's scared of dying, she's scared of facing her future, because also she smokes like a chimney, which also means like you're living in the moment, you're not thinking of the consequences of your future. So now we only have 2 SE dominants. What is she? An ESTP or an ESFP? We can see that she is an introverted feeler because of 2 reasons. One is that she chooses James, and he was already diagnosed with cancer. An FE person wouldn't do that because it's against, patient and nurse. It's kind of against the rules, patient and nurse. I mean, I know it happens, but an FE individual wouldn't do that. And also, this is about her feelings because she said we didn't care about what other people think. It's my feelings, it's what I value. I don't care if my boss hates the idea that I'm dating this guy. I don't care if my friends hate the idea that I'm dating this guy that is going to die. And again, Annie inferior, because she's not thinking about her future of marrying a guy that is basically going to die. She can't do anything about it. The second time we can see that she has introverted feeling comes in one of the tasks where the bird cat asks her to say everything that she feels, like all the baggage that she's carrying, to a character. First she starts telling Jenny random things, but at the end the character that you have to tell the things to is George. She talks about how she's been feeling, things that she hasn't even mentioned herself. Like she said, I know that I did this to myself, I smoke, but there are people that smoke their whole lives and they don't get cancer. She also explains that she feels very lonely and that she has no friends. She basically only had co-workers, and how cancer is there and she can't do anything about it. She has a hard time expressing this. This is why I say that it is FI. And you're going to tell me, why do you type her as an extrovert? Because she says she has no friends. Again, being an introvert or an extrovert doesn't mean that you will have a lot of friends or few friends. This is just how the cognitive functions work. If she was an introvert, she wouldn't have a lot of talks with Jenny, Aarno, Ciaran, or George, because she even talks to the cats and the burn cat and even Mitzi. So she's an actual extrovert because she has no problem with that, and as I mentioned, she's an ESFP. Now let's go to the second character, George. He is a sweetheart. To me, he is an SI dominant because he's very comfortable with the way that he's living. His daughter mentions that he likes to live in the farm because he doesn't like the idea of living in a crowded city. So that speaks about his introvert sensation of how he wants to live in a calm and peaceful environment. Also, he's actually very happy about you making simple sandwiches every day. Like, he even complains about the other nurse trying to give him a whole other experience. And George is a sweetheart and also SI because he's comfortable with simple things that make his own inner sensations happy. And also he recalls the past because at the two times that he has dementia, he first talks about his wife and how she died too early, and the second times he mentions his son that we don't know a lot of. He's definitely an SI dominant. So now what is he, an ISTJ or an ISFJ? I am going for ISFJ, yes, he's a sweetheart. Maybe even an stereotypical ISFJ, because FE has the way to get along with people, and he gets along with Ciaran, he gets along with the awful father Rob. He likes Angie, he's very grateful to you for doing the most simple things, like even if his daughter doesn't like the cats, he said, we keep them a secret because I like these furry rascals. And he even starts to take care of Angie when she's having a lot of pain because of her cancer. And when Ciaran to take her to the hospital, he refuses it because he values what Angie says. The last thing that Angie wanted was to die in a hospital, and we are the only friends she got. That is FE for me. I don't see he's battling with any, but I definitely will type him as ISFJ. Now next is Ciaran. It's actually kind of complicated. I think he's an ISTP. First, how to use his TI. Like when you first met him, he tells you that George is on the top of the ceiling and that you need to do something because you're the nurse. And if you confront him with a cat of the truth, he tells you like, I had a little too much drink, so I can't do that myself. And when you asked that to Father Rob, he said, I couldn't give a shit about George. Ciaran is actually a good person. He not only uses his NI and SE, but he uses his TI. If I go because I'm drunk, I'm not full aware of my body, so I might ruin it. But if I don't go and Angie goes, she will save George. So there is he using his TI. Also, when Angie goes to Honiton, he questions her about why is she going, and she says to give some blood, and his own logic is like, giving blood, okay, that means that she is going to donate blood. That is also TI, because that's his own logic. Also, his logic, when Angie is in a lot of damage because of the cancer, he thinks like, okay, Angie has cancer, so my logic tells me that I have to take her to the hospital. And maybe you think that he's an extrovert, but to me he isn't. Otherwise, he would make a lot of unnecessary talk like Jenny does, but he only talks to you when he needs to or when he wants to. He doesn't seem to have that much battle with Effie, because when he cares for you, he really shows that he cares and he takes action on it. For example, when he saves you from Walter or Sheila Green, and when you get the golden ending, when he saves you from the badasses at the end. He shows it, but the way that I see that he represses his Effie is because he's lonely, and we can see this on the golden ending that he ends up with a girl that also likes guns. And also, it's something very essy of him, like experimenting with tools and, specifically guns. And that actually helps you to beat the game. Like, without him, you couldn't make it through. So he represses his loneliness and Effie by drinking a lot. That's why he's an alcoholic. He uses basically his SE to repress his Effie and ends up in a loop. So I type him as an ISTP. Now, the next character is Jenny. Again, she's a Hollywood actress. Of course, she cares a lot about her looks. Of course, she cares a lot about what people think of her. She likes to party. She's definitely an SE dominant. What? Just like Angie, but they are two completely different persons. Remember, not because they have a similar type, it means that it's going to be the same person. First, Angie is British and Jenny is American, specifically from LA. So those environments are completely different because people in the UK are more reserved than Americans are. And first, Jenny also doesn't think about the future because she keeps herself on drugs. She also uses Effie, but you say like, what? She's a bitch. Effie is supposed to be a nice cognitive function. Not necessarily, as I mentioned on the other video, because Effie gets the way with people. So she knows how to make Ciaran like her, how to make George like her so she stays in her house. But this is all in order to get the drugs, because she knows that Father Rob knows that they were in George's farm. And also, she knows how to hurt people. So when you have the conversation with Angie, she's really hurtful. And even if you're nice to her, she ends up always tearing you down. And that's the thing with FE types. They know how to hurt other people because they know their values. At the end, she is too much into drugs that she ends up having an overdose in any ending. But she does have shown a little bit of nice FE of her when she comes and takes action. This is SE. She comes and takes action and meets Aarno to save Angie. But this is like, we have to do something about it, SE. And she is like, here you are, girl. You are lucky that the door was unlocked. Now let's go. So you can see their FE showing because she was paying the favor back. But Since she and Angie had very different values, that's why their friendship didn't work out. Like, even if you tried, her FV is more about Hollywood's values. And you know, Hollywood's values is like your appearance is the most important thing. That's why she doesn't care when Angie says that she cuts herself. She said like, oh, I used to do that too. You can cover it with laser. I can give you the number of the doctor. And she doesn't take Angie's cancer seriously because in Hollywood they are like that. She's like behaving according to the values of Hollywood. Okay, so that is for Jenny. She's an ESTP. Now it's time for Aarno. You first met him when you have the task of saving Sheila, but at the end you don't have to save Sheila. You actually have to kill Sheila. And he presents himself as a fan of Walter Green and a journalist from Finland who is running a blog about Walter Green. For me, he's an FI dominant because he definitely cares way too much about the Walter Green thing, that he knows so much about it. And then he's an auxiliary SE because he takes action in liking something. Like, he doesn't philosophize like an INFP will do. He actually says, I love Walter Green. I want to see it with my own eyes. So I'm heading out to Britain, to the cabin, and I'm going to face Walter Green. And I know his biggest secrets, and he's not going to kill me. When Jenny tells him that they should do something, he's very realistic about it. And he tells like a quote that is really funny to me. He said, let's face it, your friend is probably already dead. Because he's like, why do we even take action? I'm not Walter Green and he's a badass. Your friend is probably already dead. But anyway, if you manage to save him, you can see that he's FI dominant because he's taking action in his obsession that is Walter Green, that he brings a dead corpse to a house that isn't his. An FE person wouldn't do that, or would at least convince the owner that this is a good idea, but he doesn't do that. And he's like, I care about this too much, I think I should do witchcraft with this, so I'm taking the corpse back and finish what Walter started. Well, Sheila. And even if you tell him like you should take this fucking corpse away from George's home, he said like, yeah, I will do that once I finish. Like, his FI is very dominant. We see his SE as an auxiliary function because he takes action in the things that he loves too much, but also he doesn't value maybe taking a corpse into someone else's house is not the best thing someone can do, and it doesn't align with anyone's values unless they are creeps. So the last person we get to type is the burn cat. So here we have the data. He's the one who chooses Angie for the 5 tasks to free herself from her cancer. I can see a little SI in him because there is a time when you take too long after the wax museum and he ends up sleeping, and when you are back he says like, it took you too long, and he was just comfy sleeping, you know, like a cat. And even I can see also his FI because even though he doesn't express too much to Angie, he really cares deeply for her. Because he says that he tried to kill the spider for her, but he ends up being killed by the poison of the spider. And he says that also that if he could, he would smoke the cigarette himself, so he would take Angie's cancer. And she said like, why? I'm not even special, I don't even have the looks, I'm not even a good nurse to George. And he ends up saying true love is unconditional. And why? Because this is his own values. He chose to love Angie. And this is FI. Because yes, if he was an FE user, he would probably mention other people's values, but it is what he values. The way that he gives you the orders and explains you fully gives me a TE vibe. So for me, he's definitely an ISTJ. That's all the main characters that I wanted to type. I'm not going to type the other minor characters because I don't care enough about them. But there you have it, a proper typing of Burnhouse Lane. I hope you enjoy it. If not, you can leave your hate in the comments that I don't know how to type, blah blah blah. Or you can actually learn something and watch the other video, which I explained the cognitive function with proper resources. Have a nice day.